Hello, my name is Gail Jenkins, and I will be presenting my cultural experience presentation. In this presentation, I will be exploring the Dominican culture. We will examine Dominican family culture, 4 personal accounts of Dominican females living in the U.S. from interviews that occurred on June 28th, and then I will be discussing my cultural immersion experience. Why did I choose to study the Dominican culture? I was fascinated by the connection of 3 generations of Dominican women that I am associated with, the Jimenez family. Also, the county where I reside has the largest number of Caribbean immigrants in the state of Maryland, almost 23,000. In addition, 17% of the Caribbean population in the DMV, which is DC Metro and Virginia area, are Dominican. All of those factors led me to want to study the Dominican culture. The Dominican Republic is a North American country on the island of Hispaniola. The population is largely mixed African and European ethnicity. They have a Christian religion where they practice Roman Catholicism, and their language is Spanish. For this presentation, I will be focusing on the Hispanic portion of the Dominican Republic. I interviewed 3 family members from the Jimenez family. My intention was to do 3 generations, which would include the grandmother. But the grandmother took ill and was hospitalized and could not be interviewed. So their 13-year-old cousin was interviewed in place of the grandmother. So I interviewed Anna, who is 53 years old. She's the mom, she's a medical assistant, and she's single. Mariana, who's the daughter, she's 18 years old, and she's a student. And Gabriella, who's the cousin, who's 13 years old, who's also a student. In doing my research, some of the things that I found out when it came to family and the culture of the Dominican Republic and the Dominicans is that they have a close-knit extended family. Their family is the most important social unit in their culture. They also strive to preserve the Spanish language, and it's very important that within the family that they speak Spanish. The father is the head, and the mother takes care of the home. Also, Dominicans have large family gatherings to celebrate a variety of events like birthdays and graduations. And they honor and have good manners and respect for their elders. When I interviewed the 3 family members, some of the things that came across in the interview as it relates to family were as follows. All 3 interviewees agreed that family is essential and is the center of everything. This family has 10 family units, which are groups living in separate households within a 20-mile radius of each other. 2 of these households live on the same street as the Jimenez family. Anna stated that although her daughter was very young when they came to the U.S., she stressed the fact that she would be fluent in Spanish. That was one thing that Anna was very adamant about. Anna noted that as a single mother, she is the head and breadwinner of the family. She cares for her daughter Mariana and her mother. She sends financial aid to the DR to help Dad as well as other family members. Both Mariana and Gabriella confirmed that their parents instilled in them the importance of respecting their elders and authority figures. This was a non-negotiable, and there were strict consequences for showing any disrespect. My first cultural experience was when I attended Mariana's graduation party.
Bueno, ahora vengo repartiendo cueritos. Para el más grande y el más
What you are
chiquito.
watching is one of the dances that was performed or done at the graduation. It's called the merengue. During my time at the graduation party, there were a large number of family members, at least 75. Not only was there Spanish dancing, but also Spanish music was played. As well as traditional American food, there was some traditional Dominican food that was served at the graduation, like fried plantains and la bandera. Despite the language barrier, because I do not speak Spanish, it was evident to me how proud all of her family members were of Mariana and her graduation. My second cultural experience was my husband and I went to eat at a Dominican restaurant called Mencho's Kitchen. At the time, and you can see this video, which are the owners of the restaurant. My husband and I experienced the various types of food, including crispy fried chicken bites. We had empanadas, as well as pulled pork sandwich with cabbage. Some of the things that we noted and discussed while we were eating was that the meat was very tender, the pastry was fluffy, it was delicious, moist, flavorful, tangy. There were bold flavors, but not spicy flavors. Overall, we really enjoyed the food and would go back again. My third cultural experience was I attended a church service with the Jimenez family. When I came and entered into the church, the congregation was very welcoming. The priest did come up to me after the service to greet me and thank me for coming. The service was solemn, for this was a Catholic service, and I am a Christian, so I'm used to more upbeat church service. But you could certainly tell that there was a strong reverence for God throughout the service. I noticed that the service was more regimented and formal than what I'm used to. And even though the service was spoken in Spanish throughout, I was able to follow along slightly through a translator app on my phone. In my review, one of the things that I really wanted to kind of focus on was Dominican identity and not only interpersonal, but intrapersonal conflict that may arise as a Dominican in the United States may experience. This interest was sparked inside of me from a study that I came across, which examined how ethnic identity and the cultural experiences of the second-generation Dominicans living in New York City influenced their understanding of conflict and coping. So that is how I generated some of the questions that I asked the Jimenez family. Some of the questions that I did ask was I really wanted to inquire about the personal experience of Dominican women in the U.S. So I asked each interviewee to describe how you feel about being a female of Dominican descent in the United States, Did you ever experience adversity as a result of being Dominican? And if so, describe that experience and how it made you feel. What coping strategies, if any, have you developed from being a Dominican female in the U.S.? And particularly for Mariana and Gabriela, I asked, do you feel you have added pressure from your parents because you are an immigrant? From Anna's interview, basically, she described that she was proud of her heritage. She also talked about how she valued the support of the Dominican community that is in her area. She noted that it can be challenging at times because of how people may view her, not only as a woman, but as an Hispanic woman. She also shared that she was not very confident with public speaking due to lack of confidence of speaking English, so she tended not to speak in front of groups. Because of this, she would limit her interaction with people who were outside of her comfort zone. So she would try to have more individual conversations, especially at work, rather than speaking with a group of people. She also tends to limit texting because she says that she sometimes can confuse the written language or written English in her texts. She also stated that she has high expectations for her daughter. Her daughter's in the Honor Society, soccer, numerous clubs and activities, as well as a daycare worker. Throughout her whole interview, you could tell that the greatest importance in her life was family. She spoke highly of her mother and daughter and what an important influence they were on her life. When I interviewed Mariana, she stated that she struggled with identity in her younger years, and she strived to maintain her Dominican identity, but wanted to assimilate with her American peers. She shared an experience about the fact that she hid from her mother her LGBTQ status for years, for she feared of her chastisement because of their strong Catholic values. She also shared how she was often teased in school because of her looks, specifically because of her hair texture and weight. She describes herself as a Dominican gay woman, and she also shared that she struggles to meet the high expectations of her mom, which led her to feel inadequate. She does feel that she has a low self-esteem, and she lacks trust in male figures because of her father's inconsistent presence in her life, as well as what she describes as his male toxicity. Inclusivity was an issue in elementary school, but she doesn't feel this was the case in high school. She does value the presence of her grandmother in her household and respects her mom's efforts as a caregiver. And throughout her conversation, you could tell that she loves her extended family and she feels that they have helped her to be the young lady she is today. In speaking with Gabriela, she noted that she was teased in elementary school, but in our conversation, she really couldn't articulate why she was teased. She understands and is proud of her Dominican culture. Sometimes she stated that she does get embarrassed by her parents' lack of English proficiency, especially when she's around her friends or at school. She recalled a time when her parents forced her to have a birthday party with strong Dominican traditions, like food and dance. This angered her, for she wanted pizza and she wanted to be able to play what she stated as regular music. She sees herself more as an American than a Dominican. And she stated that her mom recites positive affirmations to her when she gets upset with herself, like "you are beautiful." I was not able to personally interview a Dominican elected official, but I was able to find this video which interviews the first American Dominican official. I'm going to share a brief clip of this.
Your background. You come, is it from Barahona? Dominican Republic?
Yes, my family is from Barahona.
And you came here not knowing any English. How long ago was that, and what was your experience?
Yeah, I arrived in 1994 and I was 20 years old, didn't know the language at the time. I started working in factory jobs in New York City first, then moved to Rhode Island. I was working in the jewelry capital of Rhode Island. I was working in jewelry factories, and then started learning English, and eventually went to Rhode Island College, where I graduated from Rhode Island College.
What made you, I asked this question knowing that your father was a mayor, Paraíso,
That's right.
in Barahona. So you have a little bit of the, elected official background in your family, but what made you want to do it in Rhode Island? Because it can be a little intimidating, I think, right?
It was actually when I was asked to run for office the first time. I said no. I felt very intimidated. Plus, I didn't feel comfortable speaking the English language in front of a native speaker, right? So I was very self-conscious about that. But I never thought I was going to be in politics, even though my dad was the mayor. When he was a mayor, I was very young, maybe 5 years old, 7 years old. But I think what I learned from him and from my mother is public service. I think that stuck with me. See the way how they advocated for their neighbors. My mother was a teacher for 17 years, and my house was always a place where people would come whenever they were looking for assistance or needed help in contacting an agency.
What would you say your background?
These interviews confirmed the following that I discovered within my research. Dominican women are responsible for taking care of the home, caregiving to children and the elderly, and maintaining outside work, which can lead to burnout and emotional distress. Culture provides the framework for meaning of relationships, situations, and actions encountered in daily life. Interpersonal conflict can often come when immigrant parents expect their children to adhere closely to their traditions. These traditions can be a struggle to follow while conforming to the U.S. American culture. Dominicans are described as avoidant to maintain harmony, and family provides physical, emotional, and social support and is an important buffer for Hispanics. I thank you for your time. You will see on the screen references that I used for this presentation. I will also provide you with a brochure which provides more information about the Dominican Republic.